chillers, how's it going? It's me, your horror homie Vass, and I don't know if you're anything like me, but you know, I spend so long looking through streaming sites, searching and browsing, looking for just the right film I'm in the mood to watch. And at times, you know, I've actually spent more time browsing for movies than I actually do watching a movie. And sometimes I spend so long browsing I don't even have time to watch a film at the end, or I can't be bothered. So what I thought I'd do was put all that browsing time to a bit of good use, and I've picked 5 Netflix films that I think are really worth watching. So maybe next time you're looking through Netflix and you don't know what to watch, you might think of this video, have a quick look at the recommendations and maybe give one a go. I think you won't be sorry. So before I do that, I'm going to give 2 quick honourable mentions, and those are a couple of films that aren't horror but ones I just came across. And the first one is, it's called Isn't It Romantic? And I just watched this movie last week, and God damn it. Stop it. Let me just put my cup down. And this one I just saw last week, and the reason I watched it was because it's from the same director who did The Final Girls from a few years back, which I think is a great film. And that one was like a take on slashers, like a meta slasher film where they end up going into the slasher movie and they have to survive and not fall into the tropes of slasher films. Really cool movie. And this one is sort of the same, but instead of slasher films, it's romantic comedies, and the main character finds herself inside a romantic comedy, and she has to do everything correctly to kind of escape that and come back into the real world. And of course she learns a lot about herself, and she learns to love herself and blah blah blah. But anyway, it's a funny film. I enjoyed the premise, and it's a good time. So yeah. And the other honourable mention is going to be a movie, you might not have seen it, but it's called Avengement. Scott Adkins, who's like this action star, he's normally in these kind of lower budgeted movies. Sometimes the movies aren't that great, but he's a really good actor, does all the chop socky stuff really well. But this one is like a really cool little film, like a gritty sort of action film. It's very contained, but that is a top watch. If you like Scott Adkins or you like action films, you can't go wrong with that movie. That one's called Avengement. It's a few years old, but that is on Netflix, and it's definitely worth a watch if you have not seen it. Right, let's get into this top 5 proper, and the first movie I'm going to pick is called, it's a movie I just watched like last week, and I think it's just come out as well on Netflix. It's called Coming Home in the Dark. It's like an Australian sort of thriller. It's quite a contained sort of movie. I'll put up all these screens where you can read the synopsis, but basically a family goes like on this trip and having like a picnic outside in like the Australian outback or whatever, and then these 2 dodgy dudes come. From then on they have like the worst day of their lives. This movie's like it's very brutal and, you know, shocking in places, and you think at the beginning it's just like, you know, they're just unlucky and they met some psychos, but there's a little bit more to it than that. But it's a really good film. There's one at the end of it when I was like, man, that was good. I enjoyed that film. So yeah, that was called Coming Home in the Dark. I don't know anyone who's in it. I don't know who directed it. I don't know anything about it. Just popped up. It's a nice looking movie, well acted, cool performances. Everyone does their job really well, and yeah, it's like a tense, thrilling film. Yeah, I highly recommend that one. That's number 5. Number 4 is called Curve. I might say it has some similarities with the last one, in the regard that it's a contained sort of movie. Again, it's very, very basically, it's this lass who's travelling from A to B in America, and she picks up this guy. I mean, she stops to help him because his car's broken down, and he seems like a really like nice guy, like got charisma and all that stuff. And she says she'll like drop him off, but it turns out he's not a very nice man. In fact, he's an asshole in the worst way. And so she's like frightened for her life and wants to escape. She's stuck in this car with this dude who's like gonna do bad things to her. So she like intentionally crashes the car, but unfortunately the outcome of this is that she's trapped in the car and he's like manages to free himself, and she's stuck in this car, and he just walks away, and she's like stuck there. So it's like a kind of a survival aspect to the movie where she has to survive and try and free herself from this car before she like dies from hunger. But yeah, everything happens is really interesting. It's got a good thriller aspect to it, and it's got a very, very satisfying ending. I really enjoyed the ending of it. I have never heard of this movie. It's called, like I said, it's called Curve. It's directed by Ian Softly, which was a surprise to me. I think it was made in 2016. I probably should have double checked that. Ian Softly made Hackers, and he made I think in the 2000s he made that The Skeleton Key with Kate Hudson, which is another very decent horror film. But this one is like a more of a low budget, stripped down sort of thriller. I think it was made by Blumhouse, so it looks good. But that one is yeah, like I said, again, I don't know anyone who's in the movie, didn't recognise anybody, but yeah, that's a damn good film called Curve. If you spot it on Netflix or type that sucker in, it'll come up, watch it, and thank me later. Alright, that's that one. That's number 2. And the third one is actually not a film, it's actually a horror series, and this one was actually the first review I ever did on my channel, I believe. And it's but nobody ever talks about it. Not many reviews on the YouTube about this, but it's French. It's called Marianne. You can read on the screenshot there what it's like, basically the story. But I tell you what, it's really good. It's not that many episodes. It's got a proper good story, and it really leans into the horror aspect, and it gets wilder and wilder as it goes through, and you can see lots of references to other horror films. Not so much references, but like visual references, where you'll spot something and you're like, oh, that reminds me of this movie, that reminds me of this movie. So the people that made it obviously like the horror, so this one is really good. It's trying to be like a proper horror story the whole way through. It's a couple of years old, maybe 2018, 2019, but you should look it up, guys. It's called Marianne, French. You can watch it dubbed into English if you want, if it's easy, if you don't like subtitles. Before you get to the end of the first episode, you'll be hooked. You'll be absolutely hooked. So that's my number 3 pick. Okay, the 4th pick is actually a trio of movies, and I'm going to try and explain this the best I can, because I don't want to put you off, because you shouldn't be put off. But the reason that I've put these 3 separate is that they're all foreign films. The first 2 are from Turkey. They're Turkish horror films, and the last one is, I believe, Malaysian. So because of the cultural aspects, they use Islamic theology to tell the story, and the cultural aspects are based on that. So instead of having demons, you have jinns, but they're very comparable. They're all evil spirits. So you don't have, in Western movies you'll have a priest. In this one you'll have an Islamic imam, and in Western movies they'll be using the Bible and scripture from the Bible, and in this one they use the Holy Quran. But the narrative is very similar, so they're not that hard to follow, in my opinion. So I'll quickly tell you the names of the movies. The first one's called, well, the first 2 are called Dabbe 4 and Dabbe 5. Don't be put off by the numbers on the end, because all the other Dabbe, I think there's 6 Dabbe movies. I have seen them all as well. But the only ones that are on Netflix are 4 and 5. Luckily for you, number 4 is the best one, so that is available. And these are serious horror films. They're found footage movies. I find them very intense, and there's no joking around in these movies. Only bad thing is that they're quite long. I mean, in my opinion, a horror film should not be more than 2 hours long, and these ones creep over 2 hours. But yeah, I think they're definitely worth watching. Yeah, like I said, it's called Dabbe 4 The Possession, and Dabbe 5 is called The Curse of the Jinn. And even though they're not related to all the other Dabbe films, but the Dabbe series is like of a type, they all have the same sort of narrative. It'll be like a family will be in a house, and then strange things will start happening, and it'll involve black magic and witches and spirits, jinns, and at the end of it they'll have to get some Islamic scholar to come and try and exorcise the demons. Nearly always it goes back to they have to travel to some village somewhere to find out the story of why this is all happening, and someone's got a grudge and they're doing this black magic on them and putting these curses on them. Like I said, these ones are like, I would call them a proper horror film. It's not like part drama, part horror. This is a straight up horror film. So they're quite like the Paranormal Activity films, I would say, pretty comparable, except they don't connect as much as those movies connect with each other. If you were to try one, I would say try Dabbe 4, see how you feel. And this other movie from Malaysia is called Munafik 2. And like I said, don't be put off by the number 2, don't be put off by the fact that it's Malaysian. It's a pretty straightforward horror film, but this one is proper grim, man. This one, it does not have a happy end. Actually, to be honest, none of these movies have a happy ending. In this one, it's not related to the first one very much, and lots of spooky stuff happening. If you like spooky atmospheric stuff happening, it's not found footage though, this one. I'd say give it a shot, guys. Why not? Just have a go, isn't it? Broaden your horizons and that. I have a bit of a penchant for these types of movies, but yeah, if you fancy it, guys, I would give those 3 movies a shot. And lastly, and this, my friends, is the best one in my opinion, and it's called The Call. It did catch my eye when it came out. It's another, I just realised half these movies, nearly all these movies are foreign movies. Okay, this one's a Korean movie, like a dark thriller. By the way, it's not The Call with Halle Berry in, which is another awesome film. It's not that one. It's yeah, it's a Korean movie, and I tell you what, it's exactly like for me. And if you've seen Frequency with Jim Caviezel and Dennis Quaid, where Dennis Quaid's the firefighter, and he was killed like 20 years ago or something, and his son finds a way to talk to each other on this like ham radio, and he's trying to save his dad from being killed by some serial killer dude. Anyway, that's a really good film, but I tell you what, this one is even better, and it's got all the same sort of stuff. This one is like she's calling someone from 20 years ago who's in the same house, and so it's got like this time travel aspect to it, and it's got this serial killer aspect to it. I was riveted all the way through this movie. Don't think about it too much, because this time travel stuff, man, when you think about it too much, you're going to spoil it for yourself. But just watch it and enjoy it, and just get like sucked into the story, because it's bloody good. Yeah, I would highly recommend watching The Call if you haven't seen it already, or you thought you didn't fancy watching it. I think I watched it with dubbed over, which was a lot easier for me, just because I thought it was going to be like a really dense Korean type thing, but it really isn't. It's a really good story. The only thing that threw me just a little bit was I have that with all these movies set around Asia, like Japanese, Chinese, Korean, whatever, is that all the girls, they're really pretty, but they look very samey, and I have a bit of a trouble trying to find out who's who, thinking, who's she again? Is that this one? Is that one? Because they all look so similar. But if you can get over that bit, the movie is a blast. It's a bit right at the end that is totally unnecessary. I don't know why they did it, but when you watch the movie, you'll know what I mean. So that's my final pick, and probably the best one out of this bunch. But they're all super worth watching. If you don't fancy browsing for 2 hours, like I've sometimes done, looking for a movie to watch, try one of these movies out, man. There's not one of them that I would say is not worth watching. They all are super cool. And before I go, I'm going to give one dishonourable mention. Not because it's a bad movie, because it's not a bad movie, but it's a movie I've been hearing quite high praise for, and it's been in a few of these best of the year lists that was out, and I saw this movie so I thought, gotta check this one out, and it's on Netflix, and it's not that great, guys. It's not. It's called The Vigil. But basically there's this apparently it's this Jewish cultural practice that when a Jewish dude dies, that overnight they have to have someone stay with that body to keep away evil spirits, and if no one available to do it, they have to pay someone to do it, which is strange but not surprising. So they get this guy, says that we'll give you some money, sit with this dude, and that's it. And then in the morning you can go and you got money. Whoa. The main guy is rubbish. He's in almost every scene in the movie and he can't carry the film. His acting is just iffy all the way through. He's just not a great actor. He doesn't have any charisma or anything. You know, I was just not invested in that character that's there through the whole film. The second problem is that for some reason nobody wants to turn on a bloody light switch. So he sat there in the dark with this dead body there. For starters, I'd have the bloody lights on unless there was something I missed. I mean, through the whole movie I was rolling my eyes, so maybe I missed something that was critical there, but I don't know why they weren't having lights on there. Every time something spooky happened, the dude doesn't turn the light on. It's got a good, decent atmosphere during the whole thing. I've got no problem with that, and it's got a couple of decent jump scares in it, but that was doing my nutting. There's one bit where he goes down into the cellar and you find out the reason why this demon is attached to this bloke, and he's been haunted by this demon since the 40s, since he escaped from Nazi Germany, and of course it's got to be about Nazi Germany. And so he goes down into the cellar. It just happens that this projector is going, explaining the whole story. That was nice and convenient. And then at the very end of it, you get a boo shot, and the dude runs away. I mean, I jumped at that. I thought, hey, cool. And he runs up the stairs, doesn't even close the door behind him. I mean, what the hell? I'd be barricading that bugger in. I'd be running straight out the front door. He doesn't do that. He runs up the stairs and leaves the bloody door open, and then he's just still creeping around the house. I'm like, what are you doing, mate? And like, literally, the one time in the movie, he turns the light on, and 2 minutes later, he just turns it off again. My kids in my house, I come home at night time, every single light's on in the house, and there's nothing spooky happening in my house. Every single bloody light's on. This dude, he has no lights on in a super spooky house with a dead body, no lights on, and spooky stuff happens, still doesn't turn the light on, and the one time he does turn the light on, flipping turns off 2 minutes later. I mean, what is going on? I don't get it. You find out that I'm going off on one here, but why not? And then you find out the reason why the demon's haunting this dude is that the demon kind of feeds off pain and suffering and tragedy. So this dude here, he's got his own pain, tragedy thing that happened in his past, which we get to see, which is corny as anything. And I thought that was weird as well, because the show, I don't think it's a spoiler, but his tragedy is that he was super religious with the curls and all that business, and he was walking with, I think it was his little brother. Like I said, I was rolling my eyes the whole time, so I wasn't paying that much attention. And of course it's in New York, and of course there's some racist people there pushing them around, and he gets split up from his brother, and they're pushing him around, and he's too scared to do anything, and then the kid runs off and gets knocked over. It's like, why did the kid run out in the road? Why did he not run to his brother? I mean, seriously, if you would run to your safety, the safety is your brother. Why did he not run to his brother? He didn't. He ran out the bloody road and got knocked over. Anyway, I thought that was strange. That's what I would be doing. I'd be running for some backup me. I wouldn't be running to across the road and that. So no, I did not like that film that much. If you want to check it out. I might be wrong. The movie's pretty uneventful. There's not much stuff punctuating the story as you go on. There's only a couple of things happening. That's probably the reason why I had all these moments to think about, why is he doing this? Why is he not doing this? So yeah, that got on my nerves, but I guess a lot of people are just not bothered. Right, that's it. I hope you find some benefit from it. So until next time, I will catch you guys in the flip-flop. Take care, dudes. See you, chillers.